Today, we're diving into the world of a poet who was like a flash of lightning, brilliant, intense, and gone way too soon. His name was John Keats, and in just a few short years, he completely changed the game. And believe it or not, his entire philosophy can be summed up in just 5 famous words. Yeah, you know this line. You've probably heard it a million times. It's from his Ode on a Grecian Urn. And it's not just a pretty phrase. It's the absolute core of everything he believed. This wild idea that if something is truly, deeply beautiful, it's also true. And if something is true, it's beautiful. It's the master key to understanding him. And then there's this, 25. That's it. The guy who wrote some of the most enduring words in the English language died of tuberculosis when he was just 25. His entire world-changing career was crammed into about 3 years. And that tension, that fight between the eternal beauty he was chasing and his own fragile, fleeting life, that's what gives his poetry such an incredible gut punch.
Now, Keats didn't just pop up out of thin air. To really get him, you have to get the world he was living in. And that world was going through a massive cultural earthquake called the Romantic Age.
So when you hear Romanticism, don't just think of love poems. Nope, it was a full-on rebellion. It was pushing back hard against the cold, clinical logic of the era before it, the Enlightenment, saying, hey, there's more to being human than just reason and facts.
The difference was just stark. You had the Enlightenment, which was all about logic, order, and what you could prove. And then the Romantics came along and basically flipped the table over. They championed raw emotion, the power of your imagination, the spiritual vibes of nature, and the importance of your individual experience. It was a revolution of feeling.
For these Romantics, nature wasn't just some nice scenery, it was a teacher. Your imagination wasn't just for daydreaming, it was a superpower. And poetry itself? Well, the great poet William Wordsworth put it perfectly. It was the spontaneous overflow of powerful feelings. It was all about what was happening on the inside. So this is the world Keats steps into. So who is the man who would take all these ideas and become maybe the purest example of a romantic poet? I mean, just look at this timeline. It's staggering. His career basically lights up in 1817, and by early 1821, he's gone. In that tiny, tiny window, while dealing with sickness and poverty, he cranks out some of the most perfect poems ever written. The sheer intensity of it is just hard to wrap her head around.
Keats also came up with this brilliant concept he called negative capability. It sounds complex, but it's actually pretty simple. He said real genius isn't about knowing all the answers. It's about being comfortable with not knowing. It's the ability to just exist with mysteries and doubts without getting all stressed out trying to find a neat, logical solution for everything. Just think about that for a second. We live in a world that demands answers, data, and certainty, like right now. How often do we let ourselves just sit in a state of wonder or even confusion and just be okay with it? Keats believed this was the secret ingredient for real creativity. And that idea, embracing the unknown, it takes us right into the core of his poetry. We're talking the huge, epic themes he wrestled with: beauty, truth, and the ever-present shadow of death. Okay, first up, beauty. For Keats, beauty was, well, it was everything. It wasn't just something nice to look at. It was practically his religion. He truly believed that experiencing profound beauty was the closest a person could ever get to touching something divine, something eternal. His whole belief system kind of breaks down into 3 steps. 1, beauty is the highest thing we can strive for. 2, like we said, that beauty isn't fake, it is a form of truth. And 3, because of that, experiencing it, whether in a poem or in nature, gives us a little escape from our short lives and lets us see something that lasts forever. But, and this is a huge but, that escape was always temporary. Keats was painfully aware of his own mortality. He'd nursed his brother Tom as he died from tuberculosis, and he knew he had the very same disease. So this constant presence of death, this feeling of decay, it just haunts all of his most beautiful poems. These lines from his Ode to a Nightingale are just devastating. He's talking about the real world he so desperately wants to escape, a world where people get old and sick, and where young people just wither away and die. This isn't just philosophy. This is his reality, poured right onto the page. So this is the central battle that powers his poetry. In one corner, you have the immortal things, the bird's song that echoes for centuries, the art frozen forever on a vase.
And in the other corner, you have the mortal, the poet himself, suffering, dying, stuck in the cycle of life. It's the friction between these two that creates such incredible emotional energy.
So, why are we still so obsessed with a poet who died 200 years ago at age 25? What makes him stick around? Well, the answer is in the unique and powerful legacy he left behind.
A good way to see what made him special is to put him next to the other rock stars of his day. Wordsworth was the great poet of nature. Shelley was all about political revolution. Byron was the ultimate bad boy rebel. But Keats, he was different. He was the poet of pure beauty, art, and the richness of just feeling things.
When it comes right down to it, Keats wasn't trying to change the government or preach a sermon. His unique, incredible gift was to look at an old vase or listen to a bird in a tree and transform that everyday, fleeting moment into a piece of art that would last forever.
And so we come full circle, right back to where we started. That line wasn't just a nice sentiment. It was his core belief. It was his mission statement. And in the end, he proved himself right. The beauty he created in his poems has, in fact, become a joy forever. So I'll leave you with this question. Keats found his piece of eternity in a bird's song and an ancient urn. In our own crazy, fast-moving world, what about you? What things of beauty, big or small, feel permanent to you? What's your joy forever?